For today's tour, we're traveling to a New Mexico Adobe house. But the drive isn't that long. The house is actually right here in Lake Forest. Here on 5 very tranquil acres, you can hear the birds all around me. 30 years ago, a couple built this house to feel like a piece of New Mexico. They had to do some things to make sure we were still in Illinois. It's got these beautiful adobe walls, but they couldn't be adobe or they'd melt in our climate, so they're just stucco. But a lot of the other materials are traditional. You've got the gorgeous carved columns on the veranda here, and what that does is it brings the indoors and outdoors together. You'll see when we go inside that everywhere in the house it opens to the outdoors. Here in the living room, you see a lot of materials that are very common in New Mexico, very uncommon here in Lake Forest or anywhere in Chicago. Starting with these beautiful wood ceilings, you've got the vigas, the lodge poles, going across as beams. In this room, they're peeled. In other rooms, they actually have their bark still on them, exactly as you'd see in New Mexico, the 2 different styles. Come down and you've got the plaster walls that appear to be adobe. Some beautiful niches in the wall here in the living room that would be more ceremonial in other settings, but here are for a display of art. The great arched doorways, and then look at this. Right over the arch of the fireplace, you have a traditional Navajo Yei figure. This is the first man and first woman in a frieze here in the plaster. Then we go down to the floors, which are terracotta in most rooms. In a couple of rooms, brick. They're all radiant heat, so you get that nice earthen warmth. And that would feel like New Mexico, though we also need it here in the winter. Speaking of winter, this feels like such a summer setting. You can hear the birds around me, everything's wide open, but we've got pictures to show that it really looks very good in the snow as well, when the snow lines the walls of the house. Now, I mentioned the outdoors. From here in the living room, I can go out to a very contemplative sculpture garden down here that then has a gate out to the woods. Can also go down this way to a dining room that is set down next to more of a courtyard with views out to not only some prairie on this property, but way out into conservation land. So the outdoors is surrounding us wherever we are. Next to us here, from the living room, we go through a very nicely carved adobe portal with a beautiful carved beam above it into a dining room, the same traditional materials we were talking about, but furnished more like East Coast traditional, so that you don't feel that everything is some souvenir of New Mexico. There's nothing ersatz about this house. It feels very authentic. Off the dining room is a screen porch. Speaking of authentic, it opens up to the outdoors. It's screened, but I can flow in and out from other rooms exactly as I would in that very temperate climate in New Mexico. Sarah Bess Cahill is one of the sellers of this house, sitting with me today in this very pleasant screen porch. Sarah Bess, I feel like I've gone to New Mexico on a mini vacation, and I think that was your plan, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, but our business is here. We could not move to New Mexico, so we brought the Pueblo feel here to the prairie in Illinois.
You did. You've got all these great wood ceilings, the openings to the outdoors. It feels like a Pueblo. You filled it with your Native American art, your New Mexican artifacts, but I don't have to decorate that way, right?
No, I think the lines are pure enough where any decorating will work.
As long as the person who comes in enjoys the feeling of being set in nature, right? Who could resist that? And that's enhanced by the traditional materials you use, but also the traditional people who came and helped you build the house. You used some people who knew what they were doing.
Well, yes, besides the builders that we used from here, we used Joel McCourse, who is a Taos Indian, and he stayed here on the property and oversaw the building process.
So he knew some of the big points, but he also did the little things. Like I saw in the master shower, there's a spirit hole, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's it's covered with glass because of our weather, but traditionally spirits could go in and out through an opening.
True.
And then there's another secret to the house.
Yes, he told us that he put turquoise in the walls before he sealed everything up,
And that
which promotes healing.
And then you've got a whole lot of turquoise out here in the pool, here in this walled backyard. Also a very traditional feeling from the bench and the nooks in the wall that surround these nice little gardens. You've got a kiva fireplace back over here and a space to flow out from the house here onto this terrace. So you can sit out here surrounded by your 5 acres and feel transported, maybe not to New Mexico, but to a land of enchantment.